It is 4 o'clock. I'll call the meeting to order. Please stand to sing O Canada. Please be seated. I'll ask the deputy clerk for the roll call, please.
Mayor Sue Patterson,
Present.
Deputy Mayor Warren Dickert,
Present.
Councillor Harold Fleet,
Present.
Councillor Dave Hawking,
Present.
Councillor Carol Hudson,
Present.
Councillor Brandon Cable,
Present.
Councillor Susan Sackle.
Present.
Thank you. All members are present and accounted for. Our land acknowledgement. As we work toward reconciliation with Indigenous people, we begin our meeting today by respectfully acknowledging that we are situated on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe Nation, the people of Three Fires known as Ojibwe, Odawa, and Potawatomi nations. And further give thanks to the Chippewas of Saugeen and the Chippewas of Nawash, now known as the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, as the traditional keepers of this land. So welcome to our regular council meeting for Monday, January 15th, 2024. Good afternoon, council, staff, guests, the viewing public, and the media. Council, does anyone have a disclosure of pecuniary interest or a conflict of interest? Seeing none, if one should arise during the meeting, you may declare it then. Item 5 is agenda additions or deletions. We do not have any. Item 6 is a public meeting under the Planning Act. So this is a zoning bylaw amendment. It is number 3293-24, file number Z523 for Kevin Graham. And I will ask the clerk for the method of notice of the meeting and the dates of that notice.
Thank you, Your Worship. Notice for the public meeting was mailed to all commenting agencies on December 22nd, 2023, in accordance with Section 34 of the Planning Act, RSO 1990. The notice was posted on the Town of Hanover website, circulated to abutting landowners within 120 meters of the subject lands, and also posted on the subject lands.
Thank you. And I will ask Andrew Wilkin, our Director of Building and Planning and CBO, to give an overview of the amendment. Andrew?
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, this is a public meeting for a zoning bylaw amendment Z5-23 to allow for a site-specific R5 zoning for multi-residential at lands known as 600 11th Ave in Hanover. Method of posting was just provided by the deputy clerk. On November 27th, 2023, the town received an application for a zoning bylaw amendment from the owner, Kevin Graham, who intends to convert an existing duplex dwelling into a multi-residential apartment at 600 11th Ave to a total of 5 dwelling units. The proposed amendment aims to change this designation, which would be site-specific, R5-47, allowing for the development of a multi-residential apartment. As I mentioned, the property currently contains a duplex, and he would like to add 3 more units within the existing structure of the building as it stands now. The owner does not plan to expand the existing footprint and utilize that structure as it currently is. It is quite a large duplex. There was a renovation and addition some years ago to that property as well. Because this would be amended to an R5 zone, the provisions for yard setbacks and lot area changes as well. Therefore, the amendments in this site-specific zone essentially pick up an existing condition of where the structure currently sits, and the setbacks that would need to be amended. There is a chart here of the amendments for the site-specific zone. Fairly self-explanatory. However, I will make mention that the lot area, the bylaw says 846 square meters for an R5 designation, plus 100 square meters for the lot area for each unit over 4. Therefore, this is 5 units. Therefore, the minimum would be 946 square meters for lot area, which this does not comply with. The frontage, the side yard setback on both sides, and the rear yard setback, all are deficient just based on the current location of the structure. At the December 12th Planning Advisory Committee meeting, this application was reviewed and recommended by the committee that the amendment proceed to a public meeting. This application aligns with the provincial policy statement, as well as our official plan for the intensification to facilitate a range of housing. Grey County planning staff provided their comment on January the 9th. They have no concerns with this application. Their comments stating that are in your package. Hanover Public Works reviewed the application with no concerns as well, and we received those comments on January 9th as well, and they are part of your package. There are no financial implications to the town with this report. The link to the strategic plan is healthy and welcoming community and balanced growth. And the recommendation is that report PB 3-24, public meeting for zoning bylaw amendment number 3293-24 be received, and that council pass bylaw 3293-24 to rezone the land described as part of lot 53 and part of lot 54, registered plan 730 and known as 611th Ave in the town of Hanover in the county of Grey, from residential type 1 zone to residential type 5 site specific, to allow for 3 additional units for a maximum of 5 dwelling units. Kevin Graham, the owner and applicant, is here. If there are any questions, he can assist in answering those, or I can attempt to answer them as well. One final note I should mention is this is an example of Bill 23 Planning Act changes, which typically this would be subject to site plan control over 3 units. That is changed to anything 10 units or under. Therefore, the property is not subject to site plan control as it would have been a few years ago. And with that, we'll answer any questions you have.
Thanks, Andrew. Members of the public will now be allowed to speak to the matter. All questions are to be addressed through the chair. And if you do wish to speak, please state your name and address for the record. And I will ask a second time if anyone would like to speak, as it is a public meeting. Third and final time. No one wishes to speak, so I will say the floor is now closed and discussion or debate is limited to council and staff. So before council discusses, I need a mover and seconder for item 6.1 on the agenda, which is report PB 0324. I have Councillor Fleet and Deputy Mayor Dickert. And Andrew did highlight that report, so open for questions or comments. Are there, Deputy Mayor Dickert?
It's just curious, so this will be 5 units in this existing structure. How big will they be? 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom? And is parking any issue there at all?
Through your worship, I will bring Kevin up to explain the breakdown for 1 to 2 units. No, currently it's proposed that there are 10 spaces. The zoning bylaw would require 7 in this instance. He's proposing 10 that fits on the site. So.
Yes, so there'll be two bedrooms and 3 1-bedrooms. And then there will be 10 parking spots. So we've always done 2 spots per unit regardless how many bedrooms there is.
Yeah, just, as Andrew mentioned, certainly fits the bill for trying to get more housing and intensifying our land use. So I fully support it. I think it's a great addition to the town and wish you all the best with that project. Thanks.
Thank you.
Councillor Fleet?
Thank you, worship. I just got a question for Kevin. Yeah, is this short-term rental or long-term? What's your goal?
It's long term. I'm not Airbnb. So like all our stuff is at least 1-year lease, or if they stay longer, then that's great. Yep.
Oh, Councillor Cable?
Thank you, your worship. Andrew, is there any comments provided from neighboring properties?
Through your worship, we had one, I would call it an informal query just about if there was being an addition being proposed on this, which we clarified there wasn't, and that's the only public question that we had seen.
Thank you very much, Kevin, for bringing this forward. I think it's really great that we're looking at, how we can repurpose buildings within the town of Hanover. And certainly, as Andrew has said, it is tricky when we no longer see the site plan, because we would have used to have seen a diagram of maybe what this would have looked like and what the parking would have looked like and buffering and all those kind of things. So I appreciate you explaining kind of what your vision is. And I think there certainly is a need for 1-bedroom and 2-bedroom apartments. I'm really glad to see that there's that option there, and hopefully they'll be at an affordable price point that, people will be able to get into your housing.
Yeah, we always go under market and we always include utilities to make it easier. So that's kind of the way we've done it. So it will be lower than what the market rate goes for.
Excellent. Thank you. Do you have other properties in the town of Hanover?
Yeah, we got 1 in Hanover, 1 in Walker, and we've done the same thing. Not rezoning, but we build within the building and got to make it all new, fire rated, all that stuff. So we try to do it right from the start.
Andrew, and then Councillor Hudson.
Thank you, your worship. I would just mention, depending on what the rate is, and if it is below market rate, Kevin, we can talk, because there may be some financial impacts and, be able to avoid a development charge or something along those lines, depending on what your rate is with the
Okay,
county.
yeah,
So just something to pursue.
okay.
Councillor Hudson?
Thank you, your worship. I just wanted to comment that it's a good example of the intensification that we're looking for in the town. And also that you kept I'm sorry, did you do the initial construction of this, like the renovations?
No, so we bought it and then we did do an addition to the back.
Okay.
And then from what that is, stay within those square footage. So-
Because it looks really good, because you've kept the initial streetscape with the original home and then built back in.
Yeah.
It's a good look. Thank you.
Kevin, your phone may be ringing after people hear that you're under market and including utilities.
No, it's definitely a problem.
Any other further comments or questions? So it's been moved by Councillor Fleet and seconded by Deputy Mayor Dickert that we approve report PB 03-24. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. And thanks, Kevin and family, for attending. All right, item 7 is delegations. We do not have any. Item 8, business arising from the minutes. We do not have any. So item 9 is council and committee of the whole minutes. 9.1 is the regular council meeting minutes from December 18th. Seems like such a long time ago before Christmas and major snowstorms. So that evening we had our report on the current budget status. And so staff was directed to find additional savings from operational budgets to achieve a 7% tax increase, and that the information be brought back to this meeting, which is occurring. We also had, there was one other item I highlighted. Oh, we authorized the water service agreement with the municipality of West Gray and the Becker Milk Company. And we established our 2024 rates and charges. Are there any questions or comments about those minutes? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? I didn't have a mover and seconder. Counselor Sacco and Counselor Hudson. Let's try that again. It's early in the evening or afternoon too. All those in favor? That's carried. All right, very good. Item 10 is staff reports. 10.1 is report HR 0124. It is the annual health and safety policy statement and work plan. It's from Melissa Hilgendorf, our HR manager, and I need a mover and seconder to put that one on the floor. Counselor Fleet and Counselor Cable. Melissa?
Thank you, Your Worship. So coming back to you in 2024, as we have in past years, because under the Occupational Health and Safety Act, we do have a duty to prepare and review each year a written occupational health and safety policy, and as well to develop and maintain a program to implement that policy. So our Health and Safety Committee has reviewed the town's annual policy statement and work plan. They're proposing very minor amendments to the policy statement, basically just to refer to the town of Hanover once in full and then abbreviated throughout the remainder of the policy. Within the Health and Safety Work Plan, which is known as JHS 012, it includes updated objectives that will help to guide the work of the committee throughout 2024 in order to meet the identified priorities. So new initiatives include compiling all of our infection control procedures into one comprehensive document, supporting the development of our facility-specific or department-specific emergency procedures, as well as the development and implementation of a hearing conservation program that would include noise level readings. So I just want to expand on that last one a little bit further, that at present, the town does provide hearing protection to our staff, and we do have guidelines and procedures that staff have to follow in order to make sure that they're wearing the protection when they should. And we have done noise level readings in the past, but those readings are quite dated at this point. So the committee feels that a dedicated hearing program is required to ensure that we don't have any gaps within our hearing protection protocols. This also enables early intervention if an employee were to experience hearing loss that could be caused by the workplace, and it supports our due diligence in case any hearing loss claims occur through WSIB. Initial discussions around the hearing conservation program have included staff in a number of departments, and that includes fire, building, public works like the roadside, water, wastewater, cemetery, anyone involved in maintenance or facility operation. Those are kind of the initial discussion, but as we work through and complete those noise level readings in our facilities, that list may change. All proposed revisions within the work plan and the policy are noted in your package through red font and strike through. And as for financial implications, we have included, the Health and Safety has included $2,000 within the proposed 2024 budget pending approval for baseline hearing testing as part of that hearing conservation program. That testing is a key component of that program. Future costs would include hearing tests for new hires and periodic testing for existing staff. The frequency is yet to be determined, but estimating once every 3 to 5 years. And right now the cost is approximately $30 per person. The implementation of this program not only protects our staff, but can also help us mitigate against WSIB claim costs and premiums for noise-induced hearing loss. One thing that's important to note is that once the town is considered liable for a WSIB hearing loss claim, that claim is in place for the remainder of that individual's lifetime. So it could extend many, many years beyond employment, just something to keep in mind. So in the case that fees for hearing tests are not included within the approved 2024 budget, the implementation of that hearing conservation program would need to be deferred. This supports strategic goal number 1, safe and reliable infrastructure, as well as goal number 5, open and responsible government. The recommendation is that report HR 01-24 annual health and safety policy statement and work plan be received, and that council approve the 2024 health and safety policy statement and health and safety work plan for implementation in the town's policy manual. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Melissa. Are there questions or comments? Counselor Hudson.
Thank you, Your Worship. Melissa, this is the first, 2024 is the first year then that you want to implement the hearing prevention baseline hearing tests? Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. We would build it in as part of a new comprehensive program that doesn't currently exist.
And so are some of the other municipalities already doing this? Are you aware?
Yes, many municipalities do.
Just starting, or have they been doing this for quite some time?
I think it would depend on the municipality, but many of them do have them in place, and especially for those larger counties, they're focusing on that as well.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? All right, I will call the question. All those in favor? That is carried. Item 10.2 is report HR 0224. The subject is the annual workplace violence and harassment policy statement. It's from Melissa Hilgendorf, our HR manager, and I need a mover and seconder to put this on the floor. Councillor Cable and Councillor Sacco. Melissa?
Thank you, Your Worship. So following suit to my previous report, this report is to provide an update to our annual workplace violence and harassment policy statement, which is required under the Occupational Health and Safety Act. And we also have a responsibility to maintain a program to implement the policy. Our Health and Safety Committee is proposing minor amendments to the policy statement for 2024, as noted via red text and strike through within the attachment in your package. Once again, the amendment is focusing mostly on referring to the town of Hanover once as a whole, and then abbreviating down to the town after that. Also referring to a workplace respect poster that was developed and implemented earlier this year, the end of 2023. In addition, a number of supplementary documents that work alongside the policy to form our comprehensive program were included in your package for awareness. So that includes the standard operating guideline, workplace respect poster, investigation form, and complaint form. There are no financial implications associated with this report, and it supports strategic goal number 5, open and responsible government. The recommendation is that report HR 02-24, annual workplace violence and harassment policy statement, be received, and that council approve the 2024 workplace violence and harassment policy statement for implementation in the town's policy manual. Once again, I'm open to any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Councillor Cable, then Councillor Sacco.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a small correction on section 6.1, Melissa. I think just the mayor's phone number just needs a small adjustment in the chart around the perpetrator and then who to contact. Just wondering, in the attached complaint form that's provided, how accessible is that complaint form to staff? Just wondering if that document is posted on health and safety boards or where staff would locate that document other than the intranet.
So through your worship, staff have it available on the internet, like you've said. We don't generally have printed copies posted. They could source it through myself, the Health and Safety Committee, or their supervisor.
I just don't know how many people go through and read, the actual policy and all the attachments. So I just wonder if there's, an opportunity for it to be, I don't think we'll use it often, but hopefully it would be accessible, right? And people will know that it's there and available if they need it.
Councillor Sacco.
Just a comment. Thank you, Your Worship. Melissa, thank you for your report. I'm particularly pleased that you included the workplace respect poster in our package so we could see what it looked like. And I'm happy to say that there are 3 of them at Launchpad. So thanks for that.
Other questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of HR 0224. That is carried. Thank you. Item 10.3 is report DCS 0124. The subject is the 2023 budget amendments. It's from Chris Walker, our Director of Corporate Services and Treasurer, and I need a mover and seconder to put this on the floor. Deputy Mayor Dickert and Councillor Hawking. Chris?
Thank you, Your Worship. Throughout 2023, we've had some adjustments to the budget as a result of projects not being fully expended, slight changes from the budget amounts or deferrals. The changes have been noted from each meeting throughout the year. You'll notice that every time we do a report, there'll be some financial implications. So I always go through those and see if there's any implications to our budget. So in operations, we had to put in a new softener. Whenever there was an event going on and people flushed the toilets continuously, we had major backflow overflow, and there was a problem with the softener not working where all the water goes through. So we had to get that updated. OLG funding, just to let you know, we're probably going to be just under the 1.3 million that we had anticipated and budgeted. There's several capital projects. So it went through all our reports. I'm not sure, do you want me to go through each individual one, or everybody is aware of them? They're all in that report. Perhaps if anyone has questions on any individual one, because I try to give as much information on them as possible. And then we're obviously still in the midst of trying to finance all of the capital projects to date from our existing reserves. And as noted, we haven't got all of the actual invoices to date, so we're still waiting. So a lot of them aren't financed at this point in time. But in order to utilize the unexpended funds that have been raised through taxation, reserves, or grants, and the actual year they expend it for these projects, that we need to make you aware that they have to be transferred back to their respective reserve funds in order to finance the completion of the projects and or future projects. By putting in this report, that allows us that ability to go back and forth that we require for the abilities. The link to the strategic plan is all of our goals, goal 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 5. Because everything that we do budget-wise affects everything that we do for the services for the town. So basically, the request is that the report DCS 0124, which is our 2023 budget amendments, their transfers to from reserve funds be received, and that council approve the 2023 budget amendments and transfers to and from reserve funds as presented. Just a note, we do have a policy in place. It's a financial policy for the operating surplus deficit management policy. Should we have any surpluses or deficits, that's exactly how it is followed in that policy.
Thanks, Chris. Are there any questions or comments? Councillor Hudson.
Thank you, Your Worship. Chris, I'm just wondering if you can clarify for me on, let's see, page 56, it's D with the the savings that, sorry, let me just get back here for a second here. So I understand that you used part of the savings for the Rivera Stormwater outlet, but just wondering about the tax dollar savings, using them towards the fire hall construction as opposed to putting them back into capital for water tower or wastewater projects down the way.
Through you, Your Worship, all tax dollars are non-water, non-wastewater. All water, wastewater is user fees, has nothing to do with taxes. So you don't want the tax dollars to go back that way. The best way to put it back to reserves or reserve funds or to other capital projects. So part of that money was earmarked for the Rivera Stormwater outlet when the report came back from Ron regarding the additional costs, and we said up to 63,000 would need to be required. So we were taking 63 from the savings on the 11th Street project. But all that 63 is not going to be all used in 2023, but because they could not complete the project until the spring of 24. So that portion is being sent back to the reserve funds. So instead of borrowing internally from our reserves for the capital project for the fire hall, we're just using the extra tax dollars that we had left over from this project towards that. It's just a balancing of putting the balls up in the air and where they're falling, because that money either goes to reserves and then we borrow that amount that's required for that, or we take it back to taxes. So that's why that's been done that way.
Thanks for clarifying.
Councillor Cable.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you very much for the report, Chris. I think it's always nice to get that summary of everything that's happened for the year in one page. Just wondering if it's possible, or maybe we usually get this and I always just forget, but do we ever end up getting a total kind of operational overview of where we landed at the end of 2023? Like something that would actually show, here's all the revenue that was generated, here's all the expenses, and here's whether we were ahead or we were behind. Do we ever get something like that?
Through Your Worship, that's what the financial statements are for, because all of the invoices and revenues that come in, we don't usually see all that until at least the end of February. So we're always 2 months behind by the time you get all the billings in. So I could tell you year to date. It's the same as when you're looking at your budgets and you say, oh, the year to date, we've got all this money saved. It's like, no, we're only at 8 months or 7 months or 10 months, depending on what gets billed, because every payable that we do isn't always on the same fiscal year we are. They're all different, so it depends on the timing. But by the end of February, we'll know year-to-dates for sure, all the revenues and expenses. We could tell you like year-to-date now, but like I said, there's over, right now, if you looked at our budget, our bottom line, we're in a deficit right now of almost $1.5 million because the county road hasn't been financed. The other projects haven't been financed. All that's coming in. We're getting development charges. We have to get the county revenues coming in. So I can't really tell you just today what it's going to be. We're going to be close. But that's why we have policies in place. So when we do have a surplus deficit, it will always come back to you. So sometime in February, I'll give you a quick snapshot of how we did from October to December, where we're at to date.
No, that would be great. And I think it would be really helpful just for budgeting purposes to see, what was fully expensed in, the various areas and what, perhaps was over as well.
Other questions? Deputy Mayor and then Councillor Fleet.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Chris, for the report. Just on page 57, item L, what is the $27,000 carrying cost for the splash pad fundraising?
Through your worship, do you remember when they were doing the financial, if they did a 5-year fundraising? And it would take 5 years to get the money, but we had to pay the money in the first year, then we'd have to finance that financing. So that's what the 27,000 was for. It didn't hit in 2023. It's just once we actually implement the splash pad financial long-term, somebody's going to put in, say, a $20,000 donation over 5 years. We still have to pay the 20,000 up front for the actual costs, but then we're going to be getting that money back over a 5-year period. So we have to then finance that.
Okay, I do recall that. Thank you.
Go ahead, Councillor Fleet.
Thank you, Worship, and thanks, Chris, for your report. OLG funding, we're gonna have a shortfall of 43,000. I think looking at the 2024 budget, I think we're really gonna have to look at OLG funding, because I don't think we're going to hit that 1.3 million going into 2024. So I think this is something we really have to have a real look at going into our budget in 2024, because I think maybe we've seen our best days with OLG funding. Thank you.
Through you, your worship, we did leave it at 1.3. We didn't have any increases whatsoever. There was a slowdown. Do you remember there was a cyber security breach on there for about 2 weeks to 3 weeks? So there was a shortfall. So I'm pretty sure we're going to make close to the 1.3, but because of that shortfall of the 3 weeks, that's why we're going to be approximately 43,000. I don't know what the last quarter for us is going to be. It could be higher, but based on our last 3 to 4 years on the average, we should be just under.
All right, I don't see any other hands, so I will call the question. All in favor of DCS 0124. That is carried. Item 11 is committees of council minutes, and we have 2 sets of minutes, so we need a motion to cover both those sets of minutes. So I'll take a mover and seconder, Councillor Hudson and Councillor Sackle. And the first one is the Joint Health and Safety Committee minutes from December 7th. And that will be Melissa, our HR manager.
Thank you, your worship. So at our final meeting of 2023, all members were present except for one, Ken Campbell. It was a very busy meeting as we were kind of wrapping up from 2023 and looking towards planning for 2024. The committee adopted the September 28th quarterly meeting minutes, as well as department-specific meeting minutes from Fire and Parks and Recreation. Under business arising, the committee heard an update with respect to the Grey County Confined Space Program, which we are going to be using to form the foundation for updates to our own program, and discussed an update to our online safety data sheet platform. Monthly inspection reports and incident reports were reviewed, with a couple more instances of disrespectful conduct from patrons being noted. Public Works was selected for the quarterly health and safety shout out due to just they're always lending a helping hand to others and making sure that those people and departments can then do their jobs safely. Under items for discussion and information, we looked at various trainings that had occurred and reviewed our 2023 health and safety budget spending. And I think we were within like $25 or something like that of what we had planned, which I was really excited about that. So then under new business, we responded to a request for input related to backup beepers for town vehicles, and then proceeded to review various policy and procedure items, including our JHS 008 townwide emergency procedures, finalizing our health and safety policy statement, the work plan, and workplace violence and harassment statement for 2024. We discussed a new policy that was introduced by WSIB in December for communicable illnesses and the impact that that would have in our workplace. The committee wrapped up 2023 by completing our annual evaluations in accordance with our terms of reference and reviewed the status of our 2023 work plan goals. Planning for 2024 included the development of our meeting schedules and inspection schedules, review of health and safety items proposed in the 2024 budget, and the election of our co-chairs, which will be Ken Campbell as the worker representative and Andrew Dipple as the management representative. The meeting adjourned at 2:17 p.m. Happy to answer any questions.
It was a busy meeting. Any questions or comments for Melissa? Deputy Mayor Dickert.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you for the report, Melissa. Just two terms that I wasn't familiar with. Page 60, item 5.2. Who is citywide and what inspections were they considering having them complete? And the second term was parachute inspection schedule. Just curious what, that's a term I wasn't familiar with.
So through you, Your Worship, I had worked with Chris to see if we could put our monthly health and safety inspections, our walkabouts that we do, if we could make them work in citywide. Unfortunately, it wasn't going to work just due to the number of different sign-offs that have to happen within the process and the various places that documentation needs to be kept. So we decided that it would be continuing with our current process. And then as for a parachute inspection schedule, the Health and Safety Committee uses that term when they take turns kind of dropping into monthly inspections within other departments.
Can I just ask, is citywide a program we have or? Okay. All right, so
Yes.
that's, what does it do?
I'm going to defer to Chris on this one. She's citywide expert.
Citywide is where we put all our tangible capital assets and keep close tabs on our inventory. Then we had the customer service portal that we launched out. And then as part of that, we're working on workplace work orders and route patrol. So part of that was to see a lot of basic inspections you can do through a work order. But because there's more sign-offs and there's so many different levels that they need for this particular thing, it would not work with the work order that we were planning to put it in place with. So Citywide is our software program.
Yeah, that was my question, is I didn't know whether citywide was a contract or it was a program. So that clarifies. Thank you.
All right, anyone else? Seeing none, so this is the first set of minutes. We'll move on to 11.2, which is the Hanover Police Service Station Review Ad Hoc Committee minutes from November 1st and January 3rd. Councillor Hocking, are you highlighting those?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. I just want to clarify for council, because if you read the November 1st, you will see next meeting November 15th and December the 5th and January the 3rd. And you would say, well, where are the minutes for those two meetings? And I just want to reiterate that the minutes of November the 1st and November the 15th were circulated on the December 18th council meeting. So they have already been discussed, but I have them here. I could just review for you so that you're up to date. So our first meeting was November the 1st. As I said, this has been discussed before, and the main purpose there was to elect a chair, and the chair is Peter Hambley. Just for new councillors, the Emergency Service Facility Review Committee, which was established in 2021, was a study of our three services: the fire department, the police services, and the paramedic. And the idea was, how can we consolidate moving forward? And we came out at the end of the report that each one wanted to be their separate entity and not in a combined facility. The council deemed the fire department to be the one that was most critical for work. And as you know, we've started the process of a new building. At the point of the 2021 Emergency Service Facility Review, it was deemed that the current building of the police services would need a major renovation, and we went through the process with outside consultants. But since then, things have changed, and that was the purpose of the November 15th report that was circulated on in December 18th. It was the Chief Knoll came and just said, you know, there's now issues that maybe we should look at not just renovating, but a new build. And so that was the purpose of the November 15th. We met at the Police Services Building. We had a tour of it, and that formed our framework of what we currently have. On December the 5th, we toured the Saugeen Shores police station, which has been built recently. We looked at it so we could make a comparison of what we currently have and what a new build would look like. That leads me to January 3rd meeting. And if I can just get my act together here, and there we have it. So what we did is we discussed what we saw at the Saugeen Shores, and you know, a picture is worth 1,000 words. You get an idea of what's there, and it was really worthwhile. And I thank Sherry for organizing that, and Chief Knoll. So we went through that and our phase 1 information gathering, and then we're beginning phase 2. And Andrew has been an excellent resource for us with his experience. He's costing out what it would be for a renovation as opposed to a rebuild. And we have homework to do. We're doing a strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and what does the T stand for, Sherry?
Threats.
Threats. Yeah. And we're bringing that to the meeting on January the 24th for a review. So that's really up to date. That's a good summary of where we have been, and we'll complete that assignment and review it. And we did the same thing with the emergency services. We went through, but it was far more detailed. And as the minutes, and I don't know which minute says it, but we're relying on a lot of the information that we've already done previously. I mean, it was only done in 2021, so a lot of it remains current. But we're looking at, again, potential sites of a new police station, renovate the new one. What would it take to renovate the new one? How much space do we need? What's our police complement as we move forward? We want to, you know, make sure that we have something for, you know, at least to 2046. So there's a lot of things that we're considering. And again, as what we always do, we're going to do good analysis. And if we're going to do it well, we're going to do it right. So I'm open to any questions.
Thank you, Councillor. Are there any questions or comments? Seeing none?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we do have, it's been moved by Councillor Hudson and Councillor Sackle, those two sets of minutes. The motion is to receive the information and approve the recommendations contained in those minutes. All in favor? That is carried. All right, item 12 is bylaws, and we have 3 bylaws, and I need a mover and seconder to, before we start that, to put that Deputy Mayor Dickert and Councillor Hawking. And I will ask the deputy clerk for the intent of the bylaws.
Thank you, your worship. Bylaw number 3291-24 is a bylaw of the town of Hanover to confirm the proceedings of the council of the corporation of the town of Hanover at its regular meeting held on December 18th, 2023. Bylaw number 3292-24 is a bylaw to provide for interim tax levies for the year 2024 for the town of Hanover. And bylaw number 3293-24 is a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw number 2912-15 as amended, being the comprehensive zoning bylaw of the town of Hanover.
Thank you. So it's been moved by Deputy Mayor Dickert, seconded by Councillor Hawking, that bylaw numbers 3291-24 through to 3293-24 be introduced and that they be taken as read a first, second, and third time, finally passed, signed by the mayor and the clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and inserted in the bylaw book. Are there any further questions or comments with those bylaws? Seeing none, all those in favor? That is carried. All right, item 13 is correspondence requiring action. We do not have any. Item 14 is reports and correspondence for information. And the first one, 14.1, this is on page 77, is report PB 0224. It is the Municipal Law Enforcement Quarterly Report for the last quarter of 2023. And it is from Ken Campbell, our Municipal Law Enforcement Officer, and Andrew will be highlighting that report. Andrew?
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, this is our quarterly report. I'm not going to touch on all the line items. Just a few. Obviously, parking will continue to be a talking point and a concern, especially in the winter. As you know, a few years ago, we designated Public Works as provincial offenses officers and can issue tickets, which they issue quite a few last year for parking on the street. So just an FYI, they're pretty good, but if they see repeat offenders, that's typically when you get a ticket. Other inquiries, just to remind people, a lot of those are typically landlord-tenant complaints, which seem to take a lot of time. Dealing with other institutions and other agencies. But beyond that, there are no financial implications of the report. The link to the strategic plan is a healthy and welcoming community, strong and vibrant economy, open and responsible government. And the recommendation is that report PB 2-24 Municipal Bylaw Enforcement Quarterly Report, October to December 2023, be received for information.
Thank you. Councillor Hawking.
Thank you, Worship. Thanks, Andrew. I'm just not concerned, but wonder for repeat offenders, do you give someone a little warning ticket on the windshield, or do you they just look at it and say, this guy's been out there for 4 days now, we're going to give him a ticket? Is there any sense of a little warning?
Through Your Worship, yes. If you go out to your car in the morning and it's parked in the street and there's snow all around it because the plows went around, that's a warning. If they have to stop and get out of the plow to give a warning, I don't blame them. They're typically going to give a ticket at 3 in the morning. In terms of downtown parking, sometimes we will give a warning if we see the same vehicle. But I guess different scenarios require different actions.
Sure. Thanks. Well, thanks, Andrew.
Councillor Hudson.
Thank you, Your Worship. This is just a curiosity question. So the people that park along the west side of the curling club, are they allowed to park there? Because there's there's pretty deep snow up against a lot of those cars there. Are they part of that, or is that private?
Through Your Worship, yes, that's private property.
I must say there must have been people parking on the road, because Chief Knoll had a post on Twitter saying there is no overnight parking because the plows have to get through. So I'm sure people will be ready for the next snowstorm that we receive. Okay, so that was for information. And next report, 14.2, this is report PB 0124. It is our 2023 statistics for building permits, and it's from Andrew Wilkin, our Director of Building and Planning and CBO. Andrew?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm going to jump around a little bit on this report because I used a template of previous reports council's seen for quite a long time, just because I felt it was right this year. But moving forward, we're going to change it a little bit. I don't see a point in providing you guys statistics to 1980. I think that could probably be broken down into a shorter time span. Maybe it's a 5-year, 7-year. Maybe I'll determine that next January. As well, the background of this report, you look at it and you see number of single detached dwellings down to 6. And number of new dwellings altogether is a lower number. Well, it's not totally accurate. We've used new software programs, Cloud Permit. A lot of that records dwelling units, new dwelling units differently. As well, our density requirements have changed. You're not seeing a subdivision with all single family dwellings in it now. You know, over 50% of it is usually multi-unit dwellings. Therefore, I've recorded this the way Cloud Permit has recorded it for us as well, that if a new dwelling unit, I'm not going to call it a single detached dwelling unit, I'm just going to call it a new dwelling unit, whether that's a single family home or a semi or a triplex. If there's a new dwelling unit on one lot, that's a new dwelling, different than a multi-residential dwelling, which would be an apartment or maybe an additional dwelling unit on a property. So going forward, I'm going to change those up a little bit to help reflect. If you go to page 87 in your package, there's a breakdown of building permits issued for the year, which maybe helps clean up the discrepancy in the original chart, which I will go back to again. But residential numbers of permits issued 26. If you look down at the bottom, residential permits issued by subdivision, there's a breakdown of the 26 permits. Essentially, all of those are new new residential units. They're not multi-dwelling units, and a far cry from the actual 6 that are single family dwellings. So we actually produced 26 new units on their own lot. So I just thought that was important to know. The value of permits and the number of permits are up in terms of residential. As you can see in the charts, residential reservations, residential new builds, multi-res is down, obviously, because 2023, I don't want to call it an anomaly, because as we continue to grow those multi-residential units, we don't want to be an anomaly. We want it to be the norm. But 223 10th Street is in 2022. Therefore, if you take 110 units out of that number, really is a large part of the difference. Commercial was down last year. We only saw a few permits, only one over the $100,000 threshold that we typically denote at the bottom of your summaries here. And that was the new fitness center, Class Factory, that relocated. I think they're called Lift now. There were some other minor ones, but nothing that, you know, we typically outline. Industrial was way up. You've got a lot of stuff going on in our industrial park. The fire hall is within the industrial setting though, however, because that technically is industrial lands, and that's how the chart gets spit out through the computer program. So that's why we're showing over pretty much a double in the increase from 2022. So going back to the actual report, our construction value, as you see, is quite a decrease from 2022. Again, that's one large project that makes up far beyond that difference. If that project was out, let's say it would be closer to the $16 million value. So that's a jump. I'm careful not to say that, as I said, because we want to continue to see these large developments and projects so that these numbers aren't jumping all the time. Be great. Every year we've got a 80-unit apartment coming on board, and the numbers just continue to grow. We saw 20 planning applications last year, which was an increase from the year prior. And the year prior, we saw a few more site plan control agreements, which, you know, are not straightforward, but fairly easy and not as time consuming a lot of the time as a lot of the other. 8 minor variances is a pretty high number for us. We usually about half of that. 2 official plan amendments we saw. Prior to that, we haven't had an official plan amendment since I've been here. So 2 in a year is quite a bit, which is great. As I said, and as you're aware, we're updating our official plan. So hopefully with these updates, a lot of these potentially official plan amendments might not be required as we look to integrate more things into our official plan. Again, the single detached dwellings decreased since 2022. I'm not going to harp on that too much. I do feel like while it's still relevant as we try to push our density, that stats may be a little more irrelevant to look at. The new subdivision, Saugeen Cedar Heights West, only came online in September. And I think it said in here we issued 13 or 18 permits for that, even just in a few months. So we expect there to be a little bit of a pause in the permit application. Nobody's going to be really pouring foundations for new homes in the winter. Typically can be done. Certainly we've done it before, but typically it doesn't happen. Uh, 2024, kind of a little bit of an outlook. We have a few multi-residential projects coming online. Phase 1 of Geofocus is intended to start in April, which is exciting. Phase 1. We've been in communication with a prior site plan control agreement at 434 18th Ave, which is just to the south of Tender Pizza. There's a vacant property back there that has a 21-unit apartment in it. They had their site plan control agreement in place, I think, for about 2 years, and they're just starting to talk to us again about that project picking up steam. The work's continuing to happen in the industrial park with 599 First, as you see that building being broken into 26 units. We also had an official plan and zoning bylaw amendment last year for the Volkswagen satellite dealership, which I believe they have a timeline where that needs to be complete by the end of 2024. So just to touch on a few exciting projects. Finally, I will touch on Rivera. That project, we have completed the majority of the storm outlet work off of the property itself. There's just a little bit of site work that has to be done in the spring. So that's exciting that there's actually been work done towards the project. You guys were all here for the delegation, and I don't have much to report beyond that, but that would be an exciting project for that to go ahead. And the Lucia Giorgio subdivision, which is our next subdivision in draft plan approval. They continue to work to complete their conditions. They only have a few conditions remaining. So it's looking like that's pushing towards moving forward for hopefully a plan of subdivision here in 2024. Staff continues to work with the old JDSS property, as some of you may know. Continue to get calls on it, continue to work with the owner on that property to help fulfill what they would like it to be, which we're not 100% sure on. They do have a permit for that property for anybody listening for the demolition work they're doing and the little bit of abatement work that they've done to date. Once a permit is issued, that is public information. Planning and engineering anticipated for proposed new north industrial lands. Well, like I said, it's just the engineering portion, but that's exciting and needed as well. There are no financial implications to the town associated with this report. The link to the strategic plan is safe and reliable infrastructure, balanced growth, open and responsible government. The recommendation is that report PB 124 2023 statistics for building permits be received for council information. And I'll answer any questions.
Thanks, Andrew. Are there any comments or questions for Andrew? Councillor Cable.
Thank you, Your Worship. Andrew, just wondering, so you're mentioning about the way that things get tracked and that a new triplex would be counted as one residential unit?
Through your worship, Now, a triplex, we would put as 3 new residential units. Originally, it would have been calculated under the multi-res category as 3.
Okay, so moving forward, we'll still see that the number of permits issued, there would be 3 permits issued for a triplex. Is that right? Like, we'll be able to kind of track that. Even if there's a triplex going on one lot, we'll still be able to see that there's 3 distinct units that were added to the town.
Yes, it'll look different to if it was 3 separate properties, but you will be able to track it. You will be able to tell the difference.
Excellent, thank you. And you mentioned in here about the former JDSS property. Can you just clarify that it's still zoned institutional?
Through your worship, yes, it is still zoned institutional, and just a caveat for that to ever change would require a planning process, official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment for any alteration to that.
Right, excellent. And would the owner, like, would we be expecting any kind of an update on that project in 2024? Like, when would an update come back to council as far as the status of JDSS?
Through your worship, it would depend on what they want to do. Potentially, it could come back to council as a public meeting for an official plan amendment or a zoning bylaw amendment. Unless there's potentially items in there that required other discussion, I guess. Maybe housing or something along those lines. Maybe there would be a discussion prior, but more than likely, the next time you would see something come to council would be through the planning application.
Okay, thank you. Certainly, I think as you've noted, there is a lot of questions in the community about that property, and certainly I think it's one where there's a lot of unknowns about what's happening there or not happening there. So I think any kind of clarification or communication that can be provided to residents would certainly be appreciated as we move forward.
And through your worship, Councillor, I would say I've personally provided updates on that property to maybe 300 residents in the last 3 months.
I think that kind of goes to show that it's it seems like that's a significant amount of time when maybe there's a better way that we can kind of get the message out there, right? Instead of having to go case by case by case.
Through your worship, yeah, the response is it's an interesting property, right? It's a very large parcel of land in the middle of town that we've got limited land in. It's got a lot of opportunity. And the neighbors, the property's appearance is a little different than it has been. A lot of the calls are clean yards based, really. And when there's a building permit issued on a property, clean yards do not apply. It would be no different than me issuing a notice for clean yards up at our corner project at 223 10th. Difference is that property's quite a bit larger and only part of it is being under the construction portion. However, a permit applies to the whole property. So it's a little bit of a one-off. You're right, it is significant time, and the answer is pretty much the same to everybody, but I don't think it would be appropriate to issue kind of a public notice as to maybe this is on the property.
So Andrew, actually, until a planning application is brought in to you, there is no indication of what is happening there.
Through your worship, no, not necessarily. There's discussions, I've had discussions with that property owner a few times about ideas at this point. No, there would be a pre-consultation meeting with the town about somebody would come to us like any development. Here's what we have, here's what we'd like to do. What are the steps? So staff would know about something, in advance. The first time it will become public would be really at a planning advisory committee meeting. That's the first time typically something planning wise gets to a public setting. Once it gets to that public setting and it's in the planning, the PAC agenda and discussion, then it's public and it's fair to talk about it a little bit more. But until that happens, we try to not make too much public based on the owner's request.
So we're not there yet.
we've been close at times, but we're not there yet.
Okay, any other Counselor Hawking?
Thank you, Worship. Andrew, I'm just wondering, do we have any control over what that property looks like? I mean, they have a tarp along the fence, but the tarp is down on the ground and you drive past that. You see the unsightly mess that's in the parking lots. If you had the tarp up, you wouldn't be able to see it as much. And I'm just wondering, do you have any authority to tell them to put the tarp up so it doesn't upset me? Thank you.
Your worship, in hindsight, I maybe should have left that property out of my report. No, I don't, but the owner has been pretty forthright and willing to talk to us. So I will approach the owner this week about fixing or repairing any of that stuff.
Okay, so that report was for information. We'll move on to 14.3, which is report DCS 0224. The subject is the 2024 possible budget savings listing. It's from Chris Walker, our Director of Corporate Services and Treasurer. Chris?
Thank you, Your Worship. Council may remember at the December 18 council meeting that they had requested that we provide additional savings listings because to date, we could not get past to the 7% impact or an 8.33% levy increase. And in order to do that, we'd need actual reductions to strategic initiatives, actual reductions in service, and some training. So council was provided with a listing. So any discussions regarding these listings are to be presented during the upcoming budget meeting that's scheduled for January 29th. This listing tonight is being provided to council for your review and consideration so that you're prepared to provide direction for reductions to achieve your desired impact. We had noted at this time when we were presenting it to you that currently there's an impact of 9.46% to the ratepayer. However, today we also received additional items that may arise prior to the budget meeting that we're having up. We just received additional information that the, what is it called? The recycling grant for, I forget what the actual grant is called, but there's additional $29,000 that they're providing that's over and above what we had anticipated. So again, that rate will go into the budget that we're going to be presenting on the 29th. And what that will do is impact the actual garbage collection and recycling. So the amount that we had said before was about 60,000 still on the tax dollars, dropped that down about 30,000 down. So about 30,000 still impacted on the taxes. So that's good news that way. But it's not going to change the actual listing, just kind of on the percentage where we're starting from. So instead of needing 210,000, we'll need about $181,000 in cuts to get down to that maximum impact of 7%. And it has been noted, council direction with respect to these reductions will be required. We said 210.3, and I said today I got another 29,000 for you, but still it would be to get to that point about a reduction for 7 cents a day or $24.16 a year. Keep in mind that the maximum levy that was put out there for a 7% impact was about a $700,000 increase to the levy, of which $356,700 of that, or almost 51% of that increase, is coming directly from the police services budget, which the council does not have control over. That's through a police services budget. So any additional levy reductions will result in net lower town taxes, obviously. So for every 100,000 in additional town levy reduced, there is a savings of approximately 1.17% to the ratepayer, which works out to about $11.49 a year. So for every 100,000 you save will be $11.49 for every 100,000 of assessment on your property taxes. The linked strategic plan, again, budget related, it affects all the strategic plans, and this is just a recommendation that it be received by council as information.
Thanks, Chris. So does everyone understand the report?
Oh,
Okay.
sorry, I guess you'd want me to go through that?
No,
If you just go to the last page on it, it would be page 97 of your package. The last stuff is showing you the comparisons. So currently what we are presenting at this time, that would be a levy of 10.83%. So the net tax impact is about 9.46%, so $92.55 a year. If we get to the point where we want to be at the maximum of that 7% impact, so in the green, it's highlighted in green, we would need another $24.16 a year to reduce it down, or approximately 7 cents a day. And with all the measures that we have provided above, that could provide an additional 15 cents a day savings, or $53.67. That's assuming you would input every measure that's up there, which we know you probably will not do, but those are the ones available for you to pick and choose. So really, it's between the current, the orange one, and the green one, which was your max. So you've got a leeway there of about $24 a year. Okay.
Okay, thanks, Chris. So I would suggest, first of all, take some time and think about what these reductions, how they will affect our residents. I would also remind you to take a look at our strategic plan, what our residents said during the survey and the focus groups and everything. Just to give you time to look at that and review. And then if you have any questions, through to Sherry, and she will, just like council packages, share them with the appropriate department heads and hopefully have answers for you. So any comments or questions? Councillor Cable.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just to clarify, Chris, so in the final page, the chart, you've got the current max and then all measures. So when we're looking at the green yearly, $68.39. So again, that's per $100,000 of assessment.
That is correct. It's
Thank
just easier than trying to do it based on 200,000, because most people know, hey, my house is at 161,000, or mine's at 180, or mine's at 250. It's just easier to multiply by the 2.5 or 1.6 when you have the 100,000.
Excellent, thank you.
Okay, so we'll move on. 14.4 is the Launchpad regular board meeting minutes. And there's 2 sets of minutes there. Councillor Sacco.
Thank you, Your Worship. So we met on November the 29th, and the board accepted the resignation of one of our board members due to health reasons. The new executive director, Rebecca Broderick, was welcomed by the board of directors that evening. The board would like to thank Hanover Home Hardware for allowing Launchpad to run their raffle for Ladies' Night held before Christmas. We raised $462 that went to Launchpad, so we really are grateful to Hanover Home Hardware for that. It was suggested by a director on the board that we have a land acknowledgement. So we have decided that it will be read before each meeting and any other special occasion event that happens at Launchpad. Copies are posted in the entry and in the event space. Most importantly, Launchpad participated in a Giving Tuesday campaign, and a Christmas appeal letter was sent out in the mail. A full-time youth programs manager will be hired in the new year. Christine Sampson has accepted the role of the adult programs manager at Launchpad, and our meeting adjourned at 7:16 p.m., which is really fabulous. That means it was just over 2 hours. That's a record, I think. Councillor Cable will do the next minutes unless there's a question beforehand.
Thank you, Your Worship. The Launchpad board met on Monday, January the 5th. We've adopted a new practice. So you'll notice that these minutes are draft. And so our hope going forward is that we'll be sending the draft minutes to council so that you're getting them in a more timely fashion. We had a financial update. And so our treasurer, who's April Marshall, reviewed the financial statements up to the end of December. Similar to what Chris was talking about earlier, we know that there's still a few invoices and some end of year payroll that had to be processed, but currently the balance sheet was showing a surplus of around $38,000. So we're hoping that we finish the year off in a good situation. The 2024 budget is currently under review, and so we've been working through that for the past couple of months. We're still looking to make some adjustments to the 2024 budget, and we're hoping that it will be finalized at our next meeting, which is next week. The executive director provided an update on our holiday donor acquisition campaign. So we had 2. One was a Giving Tuesday campaign, which was in November, and we also did a mail out, which was in December. Hopefully you received the letter. Our expenses total just over $4,000, and final revenues are still being calculated. However, we did have a donation of $5,000, which was received along with other donations from the community. So certainly we are appreciative of the support for Launchpad. We also received a $10,000 donation from CUSW, which is going to support skill-based programs in 2024. The governance committee provided its report. A special resolution has been approved by the members of the corporation to officially change the name of Launchpad to Launchpad Skills Training and Technology Center. And so that amendment has now been filed with the province of Ontario for review. We also reviewed a new board member application, which was received, and we reviewed that against our board skill matrix and requirements. And that board applicant has been invited to the next board meeting to see if it's a good fit. And hopefully that person will then be willing to join on. We also have submitted our bylaws for review to Hicks and Hicks, and those are being updated to reflect the changes based on council's recommendation that further appointees be a part of the board. And so that's the bulk of the change in our bylaws. For operations, the operations committee provided their report. They have met with Saugeen Economic Development Corporation, which is going to help to support Neptune Scoops, which we're hoping to bring back in 2024. And they're going to be assisting with business training and with some youth mentorship. Again, similar to what Council Sacco was saying, the committee has reviewed the applications for the youth program manager position, and at that point in time, some reference checks are being conducted, and so we should be able to provide an update on that after our next meeting. And finally, the videos, which have been produced by BC Hughes, that was part of the HIP campaign, and so April is following up with BC Hughes because those videos are nearing completion, and we should have them ready for marketing purposes within the next couple of weeks. If there's any questions, I'd certainly be willing to take them.
Thank you. Are there, Councillor Hawking?
Thank you, Your Worship. Councillor Cable, you mentioned you did a mail out. Did you mail to everybody?
We mailed to all of the town of Hanover, and then we also mailed to the RR routes surrounding the town of
And
Hanover.
what did that cost you? Did you go through Canada Post?
Yes, so we did go through Canada Post. And so the board stuffed all of the envelopes. And then we did do the mail outs. I think the total with printing, I think we were around $4,000.
Okay, thank you. Just a suggestion, as a person who doesn't know what all these grants are for, could you, instead of just using an acronym, give the explanation of the grant? I think there's one there, SCUL or something. I don't know what it was.
Yeah, so CUSW is the Canadian Union of Skilled Workers.
Okay.
But we can definitely include that.
Yeah, that or just put the acronyms up the front and give a little explanation so that you know where it's coming from. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Sacco.
I just wanted to comment that we are trying to fix up Launchpad in terms of our look, and the furniture is getting really banged up, if you will. And we're looking for some used furniture. There might be someone listening in the audience today that is in an office that's replacing theirs. And I'd just like to say, would you consider donating tables or chairs or computers to Launchpad? Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Fleet, then Councillor Hawking.
Thank you, Worship, and thank you for your report. Maybe this is more directed to Chris. Do we have a long-term contract with the owner of the property, and is there a new landlord?
Not that I'm aware of. I understand it's still the same landlord. And I think they have it till 2027, 28. I'm not sure what their 5-year was, 2015 to 2020. Maybe it's 2025. It's coming up. It was a 5-year.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a suggestion. I had a client one time that made contact with Bruce Power. You've done that?
We've done that, thanks.
Okay, all right. Forget I said it then.
Okay, all right, we'll move on. Item 14.5. This is correspondence from Eric Downing. He is the Acting General Manager, Secretary Treasurer for Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority. He is notifying us that fees related to planning, development, and permitting have been frozen at the 2023 rate. And this is as per the province's direction. So their budget is going to change, which means our contribution will likely change. We're having a meeting on Friday during our annual general meeting. It will be held, this discussion will be held after that. So I'll have more information, which way it goes, the budget. So unfortunate that the fees are frozen. I think everyone realizes that everything has gone up. So, but the board, the authority will work with what they're directed to do. So item 14.6 is the Saugeen Mobility and Regional Transit Meeting Minutes, otherwise known as SMART, for anyone that knows it better by SMART. Deputy Mayor Dickert.
Thank you, Your Worship. During the meeting, we initiated an employee wage review, which was to be completed by our manager there. We discussed the addition of Great Highlands as a full member and the need to have them sign into the partnership agreement so that they can be included in the gas tax funding calculations. The operations report included a discussion on billed versus traveled kilometers and if our current operating system is meeting our needs. The manager was directed to look into the current operating or to any possible enhancements to the current system or what other options might be available to better suit our needs in that matter. Our total monthly ridership was down about 7% compared to the year prior reporting month. For Hanover, there was 360 rides in the month of September, so that's more than 10 rides a day, basically, and actually more than that because there's no Sunday service. To meet partnership needs, the board approved a pilot project that would allow a municipal partner to reduce the municipal contribution and pass those costs on to the client. The goal of this is to not see any overall revenue changes from that municipality for the SMART operating budget because of this change. So as I said, it is a pilot and Chatsworth is the community that will be trying that out. Kincardine has asked for a costing to see what would be involved in increasing their service levels. And the manager was directed to respond to that request and make it clear that any increased service levels would be on a cost recovery basis. So the other partners would not see any negative impacts on that on their costing. And we approved a 5-level salary scale for the manager's role to replace an outdated model that was currently in place and also revise the rates for our secretarial services. And would answer any questions if there are.
Councillor Hudson.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just wondering if you can tell me what percentage the recording secretary rate has gone up in January 1st?
I can't give you a percentage because I don't have the number in front of me, but
Or dollar value.
I believe it was $25 for the meeting, and what it is, it's the meeting. So some meetings last an hour and a half, some meetings last 4 hours, and we do get good value from our secretarial services. She does not charge any extra for all the extra phone calls and things of that nature. It's just the meeting she attends, and she spends many hours taking all the notes and putting them into a legible form for our next meeting. So it likely is on a percentage basis, it likely does look significant,
Yeah.
but the board was very comfortable that we were getting good value for our money there.
So if it's a 4-hour meeting, it's still only $175.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, item 14.7 is the Saugeen Municipal Airport Commission meeting minutes. Councillor Hawking.
Thank you, Your Worship. We met at a regular time at December the 20th, and the main topics at our December meeting centered around looking for ways to increase our profit margin on fuel sales. Friends of the Airport informed the Commission of upcoming events for the year. We passed the budget for 2024. And just notice we're having an information meeting on January the 17th, which will be tomorrow. We meet periodically with the pilot community just to keep them abreast and take feedback from them. I'd be open to any questions.
Are there any comments or questions for Councillor Hawking? Okay, seeing none. Item 4.8, seeing none, we'll move on. Item 14.8 is correspondence from Asphodel Norwood. I have never heard of that before, had to Google it. It's a township municipality in the county of Peterborough. So, and they have sent a resolution regarding rising municipal insurance costs, which we know about. So at this point, it is for information unless you want to support this. I think I don't know if the province can change the insurance costs. I've been told whether there's a tornado in Florida or a fire in BC, it affects us. It's the overall. Because I know my own personal insurance, I said, I'm nowhere near a floodplain. And they said, that doesn't matter. So if you're okay with that, we'll just receive it for information. Okay, I'm seeing nodding heads. Item 14.9, this is for information. It's a draft resolution from AMO. Right now, we are receiving it for information, but again, we can support it if we want to. AMO presented to the Standing Committee on Finance and Economic Affairs, outlining recommendations for the provincial 2024 budget and highlighted how the current provincial municipal fiscal arrangements are undermining the social and economic prosperity of Ontario. So farther on in this correspondence, if I can get to my, that draft resolution includes, whereas municipal revenues such as property taxes do not grow with the economy or inflation. And it also says, whereas municipalities are being asked to take on complex health and social challenges like homelessness, and addressing the mental health and addiction crises. And whereas inflation, rising interest rates, and provincial policy decisions are sharply constraining municipal fiscal capacity, therefore, be it resolved that the province of Ontario commit to undertaking with AMO, the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, a comprehensive social and economic prosperity review to promote the stability and sustainability of municipal finances across Ontario. So AMO is advocating for that. Whether we want to support it is up to us. Councillor Cable, you'd like to support it? Do we have a seconder, Councillor Hocking, or a comment? Both?
Yes, I was pleased to see these comments because I believe he's the executive director and he's nailed it right on the head there, where federally and provincially they download services, and of course we are closest to the citizens and we get stuck with the cost. And I think it's, and you can see it, we're not the only council facing higher increases than normal. Everywhere you read it, it's a result of this particular continually download, and I think this is a timely report and I would wholeheartedly support it.
Thank you. I do know at our county council meetings, almost, I don't want to say every meeting, but possibly every other meeting, there's discussion that the province will initiate a pilot project and support it with funding. And it'll run for maybe 2-3 years, and then they will start reducing so that the county or the taxpayer has to pick up the funding to keep it at the same level of service. So it's a slow download that happens over time, and your taxpayers get used to receiving that service. One of them was the paramedics at home. They would come to your home and check on you, and we were going to lose it at one time. So, and eventually there was some support advocating done for that program, but it's not fully covered by the province. So we end up picking up the difference. So, all right, so we do have a mover and seconder to support this. All those in favor? That's carried, and I'll leave that to the deputy clerk to make sure that happens. please, and thank you. Item 14.10 is the Grey County Council and Committee of the Whole highlight, the minutes from January the 11th. Is this yours or mine? Okay, Deputy Mayor Dickert.
Thank you, Your Worship. The January 11th meeting, we passed the 2024 budget bylaw, which is a budget for 269 million, and it will result in a 6.3% tax increase for residential properties. We heard a delegation from the Kimberley Safety Group regarding road safety and the Vision Zero approach to road design. And what this revolves around is the need to consider not only vehicles, but all users when designing and building the road network, bikes, pedestrians, parking, land use, building use, all those good things that need to be considered when you're going through that. And staff will be bringing a report back to council on the current practice and how it aligns with the Vision Zero concept. We approved staff to proceed with negotiations to acquire land for the new ambulance base in Durham. And we had an update from Dr. Era on public health. He touched on COVID and respiratory infections. COVID is trending down, but other respiratory illnesses continue to put pressure on the healthcare system. And they are, encouraging everyone to get their vaccinations and all those good things, to do whatever we can to try and stem that. And it was actually one of our shorter meetings, and that was kind of the highlights from the day.
I would just further comment that presentation about Vision Zero. That was quite interesting, saying that roads are designed for vehicles right now, and they should be designed for everyone that uses the road, not just vehicles. There's people, there's cyclists, there's horse and buggies, there's you name it. So if you are designing the road like at the county level, they need to ask those questions. How does it affect people rather than how does it just affect the vehicles? So it'll be interesting to see that report come back. And of course, we'll share that with everyone here because it is a different way of the county looking at it. I would like to say here at the municipal level, we do look at people using the road because we go for the sidewalks and hopefully paved shoulders and someday maybe bicycle lanes, so, but it was good. I enjoyed it. Always interesting. All right, next on the list is the counselor and staff updates, our good news and celebrations. And although we're not going around going one by one, I will start with Deputy Mayor Dickert, if you have anything.
And I do not.
Okay, does anyone else have anything? Councillor Fleet.
Thank you, Your Worship. Excuse me. December 27th, I attended a public skate, excuse me, again, sponsored by Alex Ruff. I just want to say thank you to Alex, and I want to say thank you to all the sponsors that sponsor the free public skate and organizations. It's well attended, and just a big thank you. That's all I got to report.
Any Councillor Hudson?
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to comment again, there were probably a lot of you had seen in the newspaper, the article, the letters to the editor about the Christmas dinner that was put on by a family at the Grace United Church on Christmas Day. And they said how many people, 160 people. But I wanted to comment a little bit on the number of volunteers that they had for the 2 days, the prep day and the actual day of service. They had 24 volunteers. So that's a good number. And I know in a lot of our organizations, we're hearing it's very difficult to get volunteers and nobody's coming out. But the difference, I think, with them is that they ask. They do a personal ask and they seem to get the volunteers, and it was a great day. People really enjoyed and were appreciative, and it's a great thing that the family does.
Councillor Sacco.
Thank you, Your Worship. Well, I'm attending with Deputy Mayor Dickert, the Clean Energy Frontier Summit this Friday, so I'm looking forward to that. And I just want to take this opportunity to wish everyone on council and the town staff and our viewing public a happy new year and all the best for 2024. Thank you.
Oh, there I am leaving my mic on. Anyone else before I have a couple of things I'd like to share. First of all, just a shout out to the Salvation Army for all the work they do, not only all year long, but the extra work that's put in running up to Christmas. And thank you to council for volunteering at the Kettle. It was a good day. We met a lot of people, and I think people appreciated seeing us out there in the community. I attended the Light on Main dinner just before Christmas, and that was their turkey dinner. And I also attended the Missionary Church Warming Center, and they put on a turkey dinner too. I don't think they always do a full meal like that, but they were most appreciative, both groups, to see someone from council come in and just say hello to everybody. I have brought greetings at times, but I just go around and say hello to everybody and how's your Christmas and, you know, Happy New Year. So if you do get a chance, drop in. Those volunteers would appreciate it. And then I'd just like to share that today I was present during the announcement for Saugeen Hospice. It was held at the Best Western in Walkerton, and MPPs Lisa Thompson and Rick Byers announced that Saugeen Hospice has been awarded $225,000, which is a planning grant, which is part of the approved 1.5 million that Saugeen Hospice will receive once approval of all phases as they go through and they're approved by the Ministry of Health. So that was pretty exciting to have Lisa Thompson there, and quite a few of the mayors from the area and a whole lot of volunteers. So they got the momentum and they're ready to go. So, and now I'll ask if staff has anything to highlight. Nope, nothing coming up that we need to know about. All right, so planning and other meetings, all of these, this is item 16, the dates are listed on this agenda and on our website. Dates to remember and announcements. 17.1, the 2024 budget meeting. It's on January 29th at 4 p.m. Bring a snack. That's all I'm going to say. Bring something to eat. The next committee of the whole meeting is Monday, February 5th at 4 p.m. The next regular council meeting is Tuesday, February 20th at 4 p.m. And the municipal office will be closed on Monday, February 19th for Family Day, and there will be lots happening at the P&H Center. Council is going to be running the bingo, so if you want to come out and play bingo. And okay, item 18 is notices of motion. Does anyone have anything they want brought forward? No. Item 19, we do have a closed meeting. So I will need a mover and seconder so that the council of the town of Hanover can meet in closed session in order to address a matter pertaining to litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board involving a corporate agreement, and to address personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees with respect to employee performance. Can I get a mover and seconder to go into closed? I have Councillor Sackle and Councillor Cable. All in favor? That is carried. So we'll just let Lindsay do her thing and we'll take a Okay, we are back. We are now have returned to open session, and I declare that we only discussed the items that were listed on the closed meeting agenda, and direction was given to staff for both of those items. We have one final motion, and that is to adjourn at 8:42. I need a mover and seconder. Councillor Sackle and Councillor Hudson, all in favor? That is carried. Good meeting. Thank you.